Club fans, friends, and fam. Curtain up, light the lights. Welcome to Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks, Season 2, Episode 5, I think. We've established I can't count. Joining me today are regular panelists of instructors and Broadway luminaries. They're all here today to cover the topic of our episode, which is setting good goals and having aspirations, how to set those goals, how to meet your goals. We're all going to be talking about goals that we've set and things that we have done to get those goals done. If you've never been with us before, we give you the main topic of our episode, but we also, before we get started, take an audience question or give you a little hot take on one of the controversial issues of the day. The only controversial issue of the day that I could think of is that Broadway Flea Market is happening in person on October 3rd this year. And I know, I'm so excited, but that's so late. It's going to be so cold.
Cold take.
Yeah, hot take. It's gonna be cold. But maybe Goshen Theater Drama Club Table Talks should go to Broadway Flea Market this year. That'd be fun.
It's gonna be a beautiful, brisk New York fall day. Autumn
Exactly.
in New York. Come on, they don't write songs about things that aren't great.
It's true. There's no like summer in New York, the trash and rats and stench. Though I just started one, right?
Yeah, I like it. We should run with that.
But not in the summer. It's way too hot in the summer to run.
Woo-wee! So joining me today are Miss Katie. Miss Katie, how are you today?
Happy to see you all.
Happy to see you too, Katie. Did you do anything in the arts this week?
I worked at the Goshen Theater and did
Yeah.
some more construction. And then I also took a workshop yesterday for staging intimacy and becoming intimacy directors and whatnot.
Yeah, that's
amazing.
right. Katie has done a lot of work this year, the 2020-2021 year, on, social issues related to theater. And it's one of the reasons that we talk about mental health and boundaries so often, because Miss Katie's very passionate.
Because I just can't stop, guys.
But yeah, those are great. If you guys have any questions, we always talk about how there's so many jobs in theater. There's so many things that you can do. This is yet another example of another industry that's opening up within the arts. So if you guys are interested in that or want to talk to us about it, pop us a question down in the comments on YouTube, or you can always message us on Facebook. I can connect you with Miss Katie to talk a little bit more at detail about that stuff. Thanks, Katie. Yeah. Also joining us, the beautiful Akira Watanabe. Akira, how are you today?
I'm good.
Wonderful. What have you been up to in the arts this week?
I have English lesson this afternoon since I'm in student film, so I want to practice the script in English.
Very nice. Is it dialect work mostly?
Yes, it's in Japanese Go, so I can do probably my accent, but I want to get smooth accent in English.
Oh, that's smart. That's really cool. It's neat that you can do that. Anything else in the arts this week? Any future involvement in projects? Future involvement in projects? Maybe you had a meeting with some people about...
I'm a choreographer for summer camp, so I got the songs and I just need to think about the choreography, and also I need to come up with 2 more songs for kids to create the dance. So yeah, that's exciting news.
Yeah, we're really excited. We were talking about travel plans yesterday, and yeah, it's going to be an exciting week. I think the most exciting week of the upcoming 6 weeks is the week before camp starts, when we're all together and getting everything prepped. I think that's what I'm most excited about. So, that'll be fun. I can't wait to see you in person. I mean, I can see you right now, but I can't wait to see you in person. Also joining us, Randa Meyer Henry. Randa, how are you today?
Hi, I'm doing very well. Thank you for asking.
I see another change of scenery.
Oh yeah, we're back in Colorado.
Oh, wonderful. I love Colorado. I've only been there a few times. I've had the impulse to come visit, but
Yeah.
wouldn't that be fun?
It would be fun.
Because Paul and Randa came to visit me up in Goshen and got a tour of the Goshen Theater.
It's
Wow.
lovely.
Not
Very
actually that
beautiful.
long ago, but seems like a long time ago.
Yeah,
Yeah.
was that last October?
Yeah,
like, about
Just
3
this
years ago,
past-
last October.
3 years ago in October of last year.
Yeah.
It seems like a lifetime ago. Miranda, what have you done with the arts this week?
I had a violin lesson yesterday because I just am bored and needed another instrument. So violin it is. The hardest instrument I've ever had to learn.
Yeah,
I'm very bad at it.
everybody is. Don't worry about it. Like even the best violin players are terrible. Not a big deal. Do you play guitar?
Yeah, kind of.
Cool.
Everything is self-taught as far as like my string instruments go.
Yeah.
So
There was a
Yeah.
show back in the early 2000s called Cowgirls, and they needed women who played multiple instruments, and they had trouble finding people for the specific instruments because Mary Murphy, who wrote it before they had cast it. And they did tailor it a little bit, but they had an incredible guitarist who they taught to play the cello, and the way that she did it was by using fake frets.
ah,
So she
Yeah.
retuned the cello to the bottom 4 strings of the guitar and then put fake frets on it so that she could play that way by just basically going from this to this.
Brilliant.
And it really worked. So there is a way to put little half-step frets on your.
Yes. I went to a violin shop and they did tape out my my major scale fingerings.
In D major, major scale fingering, I assume.
I mean, yeah. I mean, the last 2 are A major. Like the last 2 strings make an A major scale.
They do.
Is that a D major
That's
tuning?
A major.
Is that what that is? Okay.
No, they're doing it.
I wasn't sure
It's a very violin-centric way to do it. It's fine. Everybody starts in D major when you're doing group string lessons because everybody can play in D major. A major is really hard for cellists and viola players.
I see.
And everything's hard for bassists. Inside baseball. Isn't that fun? Well, that's so cool that you're learning the violin. I love the violin, one of my favorite things to play. So, yeah.
It's a great time.
Yay! And Paul, how are you today?
I'm doing well. Clearly, my coffee's already kicked in because the puns are coming hot and fast this morning. So,
yay! What'd you do in the arts this week?
Oh, I did the fun part of working in the arts, and I did budgeting for a show that I won't be doing for another 10 months.
That's the right time to budget. So, when you are approaching a budget, Paul, what is the way that you approach it first? What do you start with?
Well, I'm the music director of the show, so I was like, how many musicians can I get and how little can I pay each of them?
So personnel.
Yeah, it's personnel first, and then, I mean, venue, rehearsal space, not a lot of administrative costs. We're a pretty low maintenance organization.
Yeah, we have a lot of creative kids who watch the table talks and who are involved in Goshen Theater Drama Club, and they're continually doing their own works and putting on their own stuff as part of their creative stuff at home, which is so cool. But we're trying to encourage them also to think about things from the other perspectives. And I think making a budget or thinking about the personnel that you need to do a show or those things, that's a really great place to start. Because sometimes I know when I was being a creative kid that I wouldn't necessarily think of those things first. It was always like what we were going to do and what we were going to wear. You know?
That's right.
Yeah, that's really cool that you were doing that work. You know, I think that stuff is fun too.
You know, because you also get like when we do it, we always make 3 budgets, and that's the pie in the sky budget. Like, yeah. I want to pay everyone what they're worth. I want to have, you know, a bunch of people working on this and no holds barred. Then like the real world budget, and then there's the like destitute on the street budget, and we usually find something between the latter 2. Yeah,
that makes sense. Theater arts, super glamorous. So today's audience question, this one comes from one of our scholarship recipients for Goshen Theater Drama Club. If you guys didn't know, we have financial assistance available on 2 bases. One is an income basis and the other is a merit basis. So if you wanted to write us an essay, and we talked about our essays last time, if you guys wanted to write us an essay, then we take a look at those essays and we grant scholarships based on essays, but we also do it based on financial need. So that's awesome. So one of our scholarship recipients has a friend that they want to do drama club with them, but the friend is sort of ambivalent. That's our $10 word for the day. They're not really feeling it. So she wants to know how to get her friend interested in doing theater. So what do you guys think? Everybody's muted. Katie, what do you think?
Well, first of all, really play up the fact that she gets to spend the summer with you for 3 weeks.
Friendship.
3 weeks of best friendery and making other friendship too, because that's part of the great thing about being in person this year is that there's going to be more like, we're actually together and we're a big ensemble and we're gonna have a great time this year. So really play up the fact that she gets to spend all of her time with you because she's your bestie. But also like ask her what kind of things she likes. Does she like to do art projects, like make things with her hands? We've got stuff for her. Does she like to talk about fashion? We've got stuff for her. Does she like to sing? Does she like to dance? Does she like to act? Does she like to write? Does she like podcasts? There are so many elements to our 3-week camp that there is something in there for everyone. And if she doesn't think so, just ask her what kind of things she really likes to do, and ask her best friend, you probably already know. And then if you're unsure of whether or not we have those things for you, contact Miss Amber. She'll tell you. She'll tell you all the things that would play into your hand to get your friend to camp. That's my advice.
I love it. Randa, what were you going to say?
I was just gonna say, like, ask her, does she like to watch television? Does she like to do anything like that with media? Because if she does, then she can create things for other people to watch. And that is pretty exciting, I think.
That is pretty cool. Akira, any thoughts?
Yeah. It's hard because I was interested in theater from the beginning. So, but I have friends, like especially in high school, they were like, oh, I don't want to act. I don't want to stay on stage, or I don't want to do dance in front of people. And if that's the case, I think theater, like prop job or more like back crew job as in theater world, that would probably he or she likes. And also, I think it's good to challenge anything, especially as a kid. Like, you don't know you like it or not until you try it. So, like, this is a great opportunity, and we also have scholarships. So, why don't we just try it for 3 weeks of your summer and decide you like it or not? So, give a shot. That's just challenge.
Yeah, we're going to be teaching, we have a tech track. So for kids who don't want to perform, they don't have to. And we're going to be teaching stage management. We're going to be teaching run crew. We're going to have costumes and props and sets and all that fun stuff. But those things are also going to be a part of it, like, and program design and podcasts. So yeah, it's pretty cool. What do you think, Paul?
Well, speaking as someone who grew up with mostly male friends, and who was also, since the age of 3 or 4, sure that this is how I wanted to spend my life, I spent a lot of my childhood trying to convince my friends to do musical theater with me. So, you know, when I find out how to do it, I'll let you know. But mostly it was, the fear of making themselves look silly or foolish in front of a lot of people. So like Miss Amber said, we've got other aspects of theater which are still exciting and fulfilling, but you don't have to worry about that level of it. If it's not that, if it's just like, I don't think that that's for me kind of thing, then it's, I find that complimenting people often helps get them to be more receptive to you. It's, you know, how I got Miss Amber to first hire me. So yeah, just tell them all the things that, not just that they would enjoy, but that they would be good at. Oh my God, we're doing this and you are so good at this. You would have so much fun doing it.
I love that. It's like also, you know, giving people compliments, paying someone a genuine compliment is a great way to just be a good person too.
Yes.
People love compliments.
Yes.
They love it when they're sincere. I think too, in addition to all the stuff that everybody said about like all the stuff you'll learn and all the fun you'll have, you're in another environment where there's cool stuff and you're not hanging out with your parents, you're hanging out with other people who are still bossy, but they're bossy in a cool way, right? And you get a t-shirt, you get to tie-dye it. And on the Friday, the last Friday of camp, we have a combined camp day where we're doing party games. We're having a pizza party. We're going to rehearse the show and stuff too, but we're doing all kinds of fun stuff that you guys will really love. So, I mean, there's a party at the end of it. You get a free t-shirt. You get to be around different bossy adults, and there's a party.
You could also just
Sounds great.
Show her this table talk now. You've got the argument.
Yeah, we're not subtle. Come, do drama club.
You could also pull the "please for me, don't leave me alone."
Bargaining.
I get nervous meeting new people.
Yeah,
I've totally dragged my friends into shows before because we needed people, and I'm like, do it for me.
Promise to do soccer camp or whatever. Like if you're wanting your friend to engage in your interest, offer to engage in their interest. This is gold. This is advice gold right here. This is great. Well, if you guys have any additional questions, or if you have a burning question for the panel, put that in the comments below, message it to us on Facebook. Just let us know. We'd be happy to answer it. You know, we love talking about hot takes, but more than that, we love taking your questions and really talking with our friends, fans, and fam. So keep those questions coming. Thank you guys so much. Don't mind Paul, he's a little tired.
The coffee clearly hasn't fully kicked in yet.
Well, it's 70%.
Yeah.
Oh, and Akira, taking your advice. Very smart. So today's topic on our episode is goal setting. I think goal setting is so important. You don't like it's hard to make progress when you just sort of throw yourself at something. And I know some very successful people who don't really set goals, who just are open to the way that the road unfolds in front of them. And that's perfectly valid as well. It's really all about whatever makes you happy. But if you have a goal, you're trying to set goals to get there, this is the episode for you. So the first thing that I kind of want to define for everybody is, what is a goal? Like, what is an aspiration? Like, what are some good examples? And I think for me, there are some things that I could set as goals, but they're sort of things that I would do anyway, right? Like when I was in high school, I could have set a goal of graduating high school, but I knew that that was something that I was going to do, right? Sometimes it's nice to set a goal of something that you know you're going to be fine at because it gives you a sense of accomplishment when you're goal setting. But what is a goal or an aspiration, or a good example of a goal or aspiration for you, Miss Katie?
Goals for me, or aspirations, are just things that I wish to achieve, and that I have put the work into trying to achieve. So, you know, not everybody goes to college. My goal was to make it into a BFA program for musical theater or acting, whichever one they'd let me do. And I got that goal. I got into the BFA musical theater program in Missouri State. Then my goal became get a job, audition. And that I got my first job, and then it was get another job. And now you all have witnessed as I have formed new goals for my life with Table Talks, where I'm now setting goals for like what I want to do outside of performing, because the pandemic has shown me that performing for me was not always possible. So as I reevaluate, it's what things in my life are important to me. For me, it's making sure people explore theater safely within their boundaries, because I've seen so many who have fallen victim to the theater world and poor boundaries, and the theater not caring about boundaries. So part of my goal now is to figure out how to take that need for me and for my friends and loved ones that I work with, and how do I make it happen, and what avenue do I pursue to make it happen. And we'll talk more, I'm sure, later about intimacy directing and all that good stuff, but also education. Like, you're seeing me shift more into the educational zone, and further from not putting away goals and aspirations that I've already attained, but building upon them. So for me, it's all about like really thinking about what is important to me and why it's important, and then figuring out how to make it a viable thing. I don't know if that answered the question, Amber, but there it is.
You did. So I think for you, what you've said, a goal is something that's continual, something that you reevaluate often, and something that you base on the goals that you've achieved.
Yeah.
I think that's pretty great. Akira, what is a goal to you?
Yes, so that's hard. It depends on like my career goal and the life goal. I always set like two. Then it relates each other, but sometimes it's separately, and sometimes it's like totally opposite way. But whatever I set the goal, yes, first was like I want to go to America. I want to be in school show. I want to get in casting real like professional shows, and second job, third job. So, but when I set the goal, I think I follow my heart, like what I want to do or what I absolutely do not want to do. I avoid whatever I do not want to do, and I try to follow what I want to do more. Then also because sometimes I lose my confidence in myself, so I try like I ask about my parents, because my parents are big supporters. So if I can make my parents happy, probably that's gonna make me happy anyway. So when I lose my confidence, or when I lose like what should I do, I think about, if I do this, probably my parents gonna be proud of me, or my parents gonna be happy with it. Then why don't we try this? I'm gonna set this as a goal. That's how I set the goal.
I like that. So, okay, for you, see, Katie's got a slightly different thing. So for you, you focus on the things that you want, not the things that you don't want, which is so important. Setting an intention of things that you don't like or don't want is kind of how a lot of people approach their lives and approach their artwork. And it's much better, much easier to say, these are the things that I want, like really clarifying what you like and what can move you forward. So that's good. That's one. And then two, there's an element of community for you within your goal setting. So when you're setting a goal, you're not like, this is just a goal for me. You're like, this is a goal for my family. This is something like, is this going to connect me? Will this make my parents proud? Am I going in the right direction? So you're using that question as a way to know if this is the right goal for you or not. And I think that that's smart. It's sort of treading a fine line, because we don't want you guys to set goals that are only like, well, I don't want to do this goal because definitely someone will get mad at me if I try to do this goal. It's not that, but if you do have a support system, people that are very supportive of you and open and loving and that respect you and your choices, using something like that is actually really great. Is this, if you're on the fence about something, what would mom say? What would dad say? Or Amber's version of that is, what would Carol Burnett do? So like, if I'm on the fence of one thing or another, is this something that Carol would do, or is this something that she wouldn't do? Like that's how I think of it. So different strokes for different folks. But that's great. Paul, how do you approach goal setting? What's a goal to Paul?
I probably fall into more of the category that you were talking earlier of I approach life with open arms. And that is something that when I was a kid, I would get stuck in paradigm paralysis constantly. I have to do this. It has to happen in this order. And I had this very rigid structure. And I also would talk with my parents a lot about my goals. And and it was my mother who was really like, it's okay if it doesn't happen exactly in this order. And the more that I learned to let go of what I thought was supposed to happen, the more that I found I was doing things that put me in the direction that I wanted to be going, whether consciously or unconsciously. I was making the decisions that got me closer to the things I wanted. So I know I've said this a bajillion times, especially like in the past 4 episodes, but I'm going to say it again, is that it's always about following my joy. If it's not going to make me happy, I can't do it. And if it's going to make me happy, there's a weird trade-off of like, I can't do things that will make me unhappy, but I also can't do things that will make me happy at the expense of other things, which will then make me unhappy. So that's kind of it. Also coming from being an actor and then switching into being a music director, a composer, still acting sometimes, it's hard to say that I'm following some linear path to a specific goal. There are a lot of things that I would love to happen in my career, and we'll see how many of them pan out.
Yeah. So you said something there that I think would be really great for us to dig into a little bit for the students, which is the words paradigm paralysis. Now, Paul talks about something here that's really important to remember, and it does kind of touch on some of the stuff we're going to talk about later, and everybody's comments have kind of touched on the things that we're going to dig into a little bit more. But instead of thinking of, okay, if you have the goal of making cookies, right? There's a set of directions. You need a particular set of ingredients. You measure them in a particular way. You do them in a particular order, and then cookies, right? Life ain't cookies. So
title of the episode.
Life ain't cookies. So there is no sure formula for you to get to an exact goal. And often you realize once you achieve a goal that it's not exactly what you thought it would be like when you get there, right? Because your life doesn't magically change because you achieve a goal. The only thing that will definitely magically change when you achieve a goal is that you'll want to make another goal. So paradigm paralysis, because those are some nice big words, why don't you talk about what that means and define those words for us in a little bit more detail so that we know, so that we all have an understanding of what that is, because I think it's a really, really cool concept. Go ahead, Paul.
It's a word that was drilled into me from a very young age, so I didn't even really think about it until later. But so paralysis, we know, paralyzed, can't move. And a paradigm is a scenario, a set of circumstances, almost a plan, not quite.
It comes from math, right?
Is that right? I didn't know that.
So it's like a formula. It's what the original, I think it came from the idea of following a set of steps to get to a particular answer.
Right. So to be paralyzed in the paradigm you created, which is pretty arbitrary, another $10 word meaning kind of based on nothing and meaningless.
Yeah.
I just came up with a plan. So why can't I change that plan? Don't be paralyzed in your plan.
Yep. That's really great. So yeah, you can set goals and get on your first few steps of a goal. And it's okay to say, oh, you know what? This next step doesn't work, or this is harder to get to, or I don't need that step. I need this step. It's all right to change your plan midstream. If you were canoeing and your plan in the canoe was to go from point A to point B, taking the river, and then as you went down the river, there was a log across the river, you're not just going to bump against the log until the log disappears. You're going to change your plan, right? It's all right. You got to get to point B. You got to change the plan. That's how it works. Paradigm paralysis. So, okay. So for Paul, goals used to be a little more rigid and now they're a little more general. I think that's good for the kids. And then also the second part is a goal is something that you move toward, not necessarily on a narrow path, but on a broad path. So it's okay when you're setting a goal to generally, even slowly move towards something, even if you're not super hyper focused on it, you can still keep your goals, right? Good?
That's exactly what I was trying to do.
Awesome. Randa, what are goals to you? What's a Randa goal?
Well, we talked about a lot of the stuff I was going to talk about, but that's okay. I think that like there are lots of different types of goals. So I would say that like I have some like constant goals that are like I have a constant plan and like I can really see that, and then I have variable goals that like really just change a lot, like what we were talking about. And so like for the plan, I can have my set steps, my cooking instructions. But for my variable goals, I would say that like the most important thing to keep in mind is that the decisions that you make should be leading you towards that goal. So like if your goal is to be an astronaut, then you should go to school for that. And so you should like apply for things, but every decision that you make should be, all right, I'm going to be an astronaut. So like you shouldn't take a job as a dental hygienist if you want to be an astronaut. You know what I mean? So
yes. Yeah. There is a woman, her name is Kay Callan, the letter K and then Callan. She was most recently in Knives Out as the grandmother. She also played Clark's mom on Smallville back in the 90s. She's great. She's also an author. She has a book called How to Act and Eat at the Same Time. And she is a big proponent of never taking a day job. And so if you are going to be an actor, be a performer, and try to only do jobs where you are building your skills. If you are going to take a job as a waiter, how does that further your goal to being an actor? Does it teach you to be in a good mood when you don't want to be in a good mood? Like, does it keep you fit because you're walking a lot? Then that's a fine job, but that's not your day job. That's a job that you take to support your acting. That's a job that even the things that you're doing in that job support your acting career. So she had all kinds of creative ways to like try to get to the goal. But one of the things that she encouraged people to do was look up medical facilities, and they have these real life emergency trainings where you have to like memorize lists of symptoms, and sometimes you just like lay on some concrete for 2 hours. Like they have these real life scenarios where doctors in training and internists have to like interact with real people, and they hire actors to do this. Or there's part of legal training for people to be lawyers where they do mock trials. And in the mock trials, they need people who can memorize circumstances about somebody's life from real cases and be able to talk about those details no matter the line of questioning. So you have to memorize all of these character details. Obviously, that's an acting job, kind of, right? Mm-hmm. But it also helps you memorize stuff. So her big thing was like, don't take a job as a receptionist unless you think that being a receptionist is going to further your skills. So that's great. Don't be a dental hygienist if you want to be an astronaut. Mm-hmm. That's awesome. I like the idea too, and you're kind of the first one to bring this up, of having like a general goal, that there are some things that are just sort of, they're just general goals around you all the time. And then there's other goals, and how each decision you make should try to lead you to the thing that you want. I think that's important. So summarizing, a Randa goal would be a goal where you have set it, and each step that you take or each thing that you do, that thing is like a gel on a light, or like a tint. It's like the glasses you wear. So you're seeing every decision you make through the Randa goal glasses.
Yes.
And I think that's great. I love that. Oh, we got some good answers. So our first subtopic is the big goals and big goal setting. So I'll say something a little bit before we get started into the big goals. Big goals are always really challenging for me as an artist because I didn't really have a realistic image of what the industry was like when I was a young person. So I thought it was like the movie White Christmas, where everybody gets together and is talented and there's a lot of rhinestones and all that stuff is just there and it's cool. But you put on a show for the general and barn and then you're kind of famous and everybody thinks you're amazing. And then you do a show and you do this and then you go home. And it's great. So I sort of thought that that's what the industry was like. So when I was setting goals without knowing really what I was setting goals about. I was setting them based on something that wasn't really accurate. I'm really grateful because I felt like I had the freedom within my young life to reset my goals once I did have a more realistic vision of what things were like. And I have to tell you, the more I learn, the more I know about things, and my goals change all the time. So maybe in one of my dizzy daydreams as a young person, I wanted to be on Broadway. And that was a fine goal. But what did that actually mean to me? What it meant was that I would have a lifestyle where I would be performing and I might have some people who really like to watch me perform, and that I was making the world a better place by creating art and music with other people. So those were the real goals behind the I want to be on Broadway goal. That's just like how I saw it. And now I look at it and I think, well, golly, sure, I do a Broadway show, whatever. But I don't think, well, I got to be on Broadway. Like for me, I got pulled up onto the stage during Let the Sunshine In for the revival of Hair on Broadway. So I performed in a Broadway show. I sang my little lungs out. I looked at the conductor for the cutoff and everything. So for me, I've been on Broadway. It's done. It's dusted. Everything's great. So check. Broadway star Amber Burgess, done. So I think that the most important thing for me to realize with my big goals when I was a young person was that those are going to change the more that you learn. So I think that's a hard thing, because I think, a lot of us have the I want to be on Broadway goal when we start out, and it's a lot of people never lose that goal. That's always just like the single focus. But for me, the more I learned, the more I was like, oh, that's not really what I want. I don't want to pay a bunch of money for rent and then be like fourth cat from the left next to a giant tin can for 12 years and then, move back to North Dakota. What do you do? So talk about big goals. We're going to go in the same order. Miss Katie, talk about big goals. And is there a big goal that you set that you're still working on, living with, or do you have a big goal that changed? Or talk to me about a big goal.
Yeah. So what's interesting is I think that big goals, much like the term success, change when you understand things a little better, or like change as life happens, and that's okay. And like, it's all up to you to be okay with that. So like in college, I remember some of my classmates saying some kind of rude things about our professors and how like, well, they don't even know the industry. They're not even out there anymore, which is untrue. My professors would take time off and go perform. Like, it's untrue. Or on the summer seasons, like they're doing things. But a lot of them had settled down and started having their families, and that was changing their goals. I myself never saw myself getting married, having a child. And now I am married with a stepchild who's 6 years old, guys. So like, I think when life happens, things change. And you can either fight it and like hate every second of it and be bitter about it, or you can take it, reevaluate, and decide what's my next step. What is my next goal? So for me, my big goal right now is to figure out how to be in the theater world without necessarily performing and make it my full-time career, so I don't have to do service industry anymore. I'm really lucky right now with my job in Chicago because number one, we're closed and I'm still on payroll as a manager and we're doing work behind the scenes. But before that, I was feeling so much better because even though I was managing the lounge area of a 7-stage theater, I was within the theater world. my outlook on life drastically changed when I took that job, because I was seeing people from college coming in and doing shows or coming to see shows, and just being in the community is a huge uplift to one's spirit when you belong in that community. So my goal, my big long-term goal has always been theater is my life, and in what form can I make it my career? And so, you know, if that's working in a costume shop, if that's doing overhire work for Goshen Theater to build things in the basement, whatever it is, if I can be in a theater, my life is much happier. So my overall big goal is to do what I love.
I love that. Akira, what's a big goal for you right now?
Yes. So big goal for me is loving myself. So it's like outside of like career goal or artist goal, but as a person who live a life, that's how I set the goal. Then for career goal, like I want to be on Broadway, I want to perform entire my life. Those kind of thing is like provided from my mom, actually. Like my mom wanted me to be an actor, so she set the path. Like she took me to ballet lesson, which I hated, whatever. And she was like, why don't you take voice lesson? What? I don't play piano, but why don't you sing? Okay. That's how I got set the goal. So but eventually it's my goal now, so whatever. Then, so my focus is more like not only career goal, but because it's provided by my mom, so it's settled. And so my focus is more like who I want to be, how I want to live my life. Like I want to be happy, I want to make myself happy, and if I can make other people happy, that's my goal. That's who I want to be. So that's how I set the big goal and set the big goals.
I think that's so smart. Like, I think at essence, these big goals have to be not just based on achievements, but based on what's always going to be important to you. I think that's a really smart way to put it, because loving yourself and accepting yourself, that's a big goal for all of us. Like we're told all the time socially, by society and by people, all the things that are wrong. And it's hard. I wish I could show you the other day, this is Wednesday, Miss Katie was in the office and they gave me a label printer, which is always a mistake. But I put this on my computer to remind myself. But I made one for Miss Katie first. But yeah, gotta remind yourself. So I have a label maker now. So that's good. That's getting me closer to my goals as well. But yeah, what's always going to be important? I think that's a great place to start for big goals and little goals. Thanks, Akira. That's beautiful. Randa, what's big goal time for you like right now?
That is really difficult because I think that I've gotten to a point in my career where my big goals are really dependent on other people. Like I would really love to gain representation, but I can only do so much to make that happen. I would really love to, I don't know, get a promotion on the Fiddler tour, but like I can't because the people are coming back or whatever. Like those goals, I can't achieve those goals because they're not in my control. And so like it's kind of coming to terms with that. And so I am just like setting smaller goals for myself that I can achieve, I don't know, just like day-to-day stuff. Like right now I'm working on paring down my wardrobe so I can travel more easily. Like that's a goal. So I think that it's okay to have your lofty goals in the background, but like, especially right now in the middle of a pandemic, sometimes you just can't do anything to achieve them. So all you can really do is like Akira was saying, really work on yourself and making yourself the happiest, best person that you could be.
Yeah, I think that's super important. And think about like how many of our big goals are actually determined by other people. So like you guys know I do pageants, which is like a silly, fun little thing that I do with my mom. Mm-hmm. And I think it does actually help me in a lot of really crazy ways, but whatever. But I used to have goals like, oh, I want to win, or I want to get at least this place. And I realized that that's a really hard goal, because if it's not your day, or if like you look exactly like the judge's ex-wife, or like there's all kinds of factors that you like, people are giving you a score based on an arbitrary measurement, like it can't really be about that. So I started setting goals in competitions like that about my own attitude, or okay, when I face this rejection or this negativity, I am going to rise to the occasion, or I'm going to spend this whole week being a queen and really enjoying wearing a tiara for 7 days, and it being socially acceptable for an adult woman to wear a tiara for 7 days. Like I'm going to live every minute of this and enjoy it. And my goals now kind of center around experiences that I want to curate for my mom. So like, yeah, like we're going to have these moments, or we're going to do these things. So we talk about evening gowns, right? Which is shallow and dumb, but the things that sort of happen around talking about evening gowns, or when we talk about interview preparations, we'll have pretty deep conversations about stuff, because it's all within the safe umbrella of talking about this pageantry thing, right? So it's something that I do with my mom, that I like doing with my mom. It's all about that relationship and cultivating that in a really weird, ridiculous sort of way. But it also provides something wonderful. So when I set a goal, like I'm going to have a really great lunch with my mom, I'm going to have this really great experience with my mom today, this week, whatever it is, or when my mom gets stressed, I'm going to respond in this way to be the best support that I can be for her. That's an achievable goal for me. It's not determined by other people. It's not like a number on a piece of paper that says I can walk from point A to point B really well, because that doesn't matter at all. And at the end of the day, am I even going to remember the sparkly hat or banner or any of that stupid stuff? No. But am I going to remember those moments with my mom? Yeah. So again, it's about what's important. And then also trying to make goals and do things that are not necessarily determined by other people. It's a hard lesson to learn. Like, right, there hasn't been Broadway for the last year. It's hard to be on Broadway when there's not a Broadway, you know?
Yes. Or like agents aren't accepting submissions right now. So like that goal is passed. Or I've talked to several people about this. Theaters in general are going with either the people that they had hired prior to the pandemic,
Yes.
or people that they know. So it's quite difficult to get a job as someone who just like didn't have things for sure lined up at the beginning of the pandemic, or who is trying to establish themselves with certain theaters. It's impossible.
I saw an audition notice the other day, and it was like a show that I wouldn't mind doing. It's a show that has child actors in it, and I love working with child actors. Love it. Mwah. And we're gonna have to like relegate me to one chef's kiss per episode. I think it's getting out of control. But thank you, Katie. Infinite numbers of those, though. So I saw this audition notice. I was like, oh, I'll go check it out. Maybe if the dates are right and I can find the time to do it, because I do want to get back on stage. And they were only casting 6 roles in the show, because everything was from the previous cast. I was like, couldn't people who are good for my roles have the decency to quit so that I could audition? No?
Exactly. And you can't even like be mad at them because they got the job. So you can't be mad at them. Like, good for them. Happy for them.
You can be mad at them. You can. You're allowed.
You can. But like, is it fair to be mad at them? It's really like the casting director. Well, you never know. It's a small business. Anyone, I'm not mad at anyone. It's what it is.
No. Also, getting mad at people is pretty dumb anyway.
Yeah.
They don't care. Though I feel like I spend like hours of my life all the time worrying that people are mad at me. But when I get mad at people, they don't care at all. Life is hard.
Yeah.
Times is hard. Paul, big goal country.
Yeah. I think it's so interesting to hear everyone talk about this too, because it makes me think about just acting as well. And I don't know if you were eventually going to draw this comparison, but when we act, we have to think about our characters' objectives, and we have to think about their super objective, right? And Crazy for You, Bobby wants to dance. That is his thing. He wants to dance in the Follies. And then along the way, fall in love with this woman, save this theater. You know, all these things happen to him, but it's all with the ultimate goal of, I want to make theater and I want to dance. And the last thing that happens in the show is the woman that he fell in love with and then lost comes out in a beautiful white dress and says, "Do you want to dance, Bobby?" And he says, "Who could ask for anything more?" And they dance off into the sunset. And it's beautiful because you knew from the beginning, I'm not crying, you're crying, because you knew from the beginning that that is what he wanted. And so if you want to dance off into the sunset with someone beautiful that you love, you have to know that that's what you want. If 50 years from now, you want to feel fulfilled, it's that. And the more that I do this, the more broad that answer becomes, which is kind of what people are talking about. And like Miss Amber said, she didn't want to be fourth cat from the left next to a tin can, but I will never forget this story. It's also a Let the Sunshine In story. When my dad saw the original production of Hair, he was in the standing room at the back of the orchestra, and they didn't bring people up onto the stage. They went out into the audience and handed out flowers, and it was beautiful. And my dad, all the way in the back, this guy in a hippie costume runs up, hands him a daisy and says, "I mean, it's a job, man," and takes off back up the aisle. And that is what that guy wanted to do. And there are definitely days when it is a job, but it's gotta you have to know that that's what you want. And so I guess when I'm talking about my big goals, aside from playing the minute waltz perfectly in exactly a minute, it's the people is more what I find. It's just, I just don't want to be around people I don't want to be around, and I do want to be around people I do want to be around. And if art is made in the process as well, so much the better. But it's really just, it's a people thing for me.
Yeah, no, I agree with that. I think it's hard to I think we're told as young people that if you like something, you've got to like it all the way, right? And if you want to do something, you've got to do it all the way. You have to like it 100% of the time. And you shouldn't be focusing on anything else, what is it? Step, kick, step, touch, step, kick, again, step. That should just be your life. Just over and over and over. You should listen to nothing but Broadway soundtracks. You should do nothing but take acting classes. But there's this one version of success, and that's how you have to live. And I think it's a little bit different than that when it comes down to it. So we've kind of touched on this a little bit, but I'm going to talk just for a second about little goals. I think that some of the most fun that I have is setting resolutions or goals. I'm going to ask each of you to give me an example of a small goal that you've done, maybe sometime in the last few years, or a small aspiration that you've had that was something that surprised you or gave you a sense of achievement or something. But mine is, in 2013, I'm not a very athletic person, but in 2013, I set the goal that by the end of the year, I wanted to run a half marathon, and not run it from start to finish, do intervals, do it in a very sensible way, because I had read up on it, and I had always sort of been fascinated with running. I wanted to be the type of person who enjoyed running. So I set that goal. I did a Couch to 10K program. It ended up being something that was different than I thought it would be. And it is still something that I do. I literally went jogging last night, but it had nothing to do with yes, it increases my fitness, sure. But it didn't really have anything to do with theater. It didn't have anything to do with any of my secondary hobbies. I have a bunch of little goals that could further my career, learn, practice more on the violin is one of mine, or learn a new felled seaming technique when sewing clothing that could actually help me in my job. I have these smaller goals, but this was something that was completely outside the realm of what I do every day. And it ended up being so freeing for me. It was a time when I didn't have to think about theater. If I did think about theater, I thought about it in a completely different way. it was really inspiring to me. Have you guys had an experience like that where you set a goal for something outside of the arts or something that surprised you, a small goal that turned into something surprising? I'm going to start with Katie.
I'm having a hard time finding something to bring up along that line of thinking. So I'm going to jump to just like small goals in my mind.
Yeah, I love that.
And like, so for me, those big goals, like, or medium-sized goals, like the intimacy director or that kind of thing, I look at those and I think, well, how do I get there? And those small goals are like those stepping stones to reach that for me. So like small goal, take workshops, small goal, practice the tools, or like, I don't know, like small goal, do a vocal lesson more often, those kinds of things that do go into those bigger goals of continuing the work, I guess. So yeah, it's all about like supporting the big goals for me with those smaller goals. So what classes can I take? What research can I do? But also not kicking myself when I don't have the mental capacity to contribute to those goals. Huge deal. Don't kick yourself when you're down, friends.
Yeah, that's great. This is so smart, Katie. Thank you, because my line of thinking is an option, but this is probably a better thing to talk about with the kids. So small goals and small achievable goals are really great ways to get to your big goals too. I mean, obviously be open to making new small goals and new big goals and all of that, but no, that's really, really smart. Like, oh, I want to see a more functional theater community where people have better boundaries, big goal. I want to see a more inclusive theatrical environment, big goal. So the steps to getting there are educating yourself and then like putting those
along that education
into action. Right. So yeah, no, that's so smart.
Yeah. Going back to that thought of like contributing to my community, I think I see, and this could be controversial if you want it to be, but our industry is not perfect by any stretch of the imagination. No. We've talked about it. We've talked about the problems we have. And the thing is like actors are really good about sharing those trauma horror stories, but are we good about fixing it for the next person to not have that? So how can I take my trauma, take my stories, take other people's and turn it into action? And I think that can be said for anything, anywhere, any problem you see. How are you contributing to the problem? How can you help dismantle the problem and then put it into action? And so that's, I mean, those smaller goals of identifying the problem, the small goal of how do we fix it? And then the small goal of do it. Like, don't just talk about it, be about it, is what I'm trying to do. I fall short all the time. I'm really good at complaining, guys. Really good. I've got lots of stories to share, but is it helping anyone? Just share them. Right. And make them aware. Obviously not, because it's not changing. And many have come before me with the same problem. And I'm sure they've shared it because we're really good sharers. So it hasn't changed. And I don't want my students to have to deal with the things that myself and my colleagues have had to face. So my smaller goals right now are to make sure you don't have to. And how can I do that for you?
That's great. I love that. Solving the problems of the world, Miss Katie. Akira, how do small goals work for you?
So the last year, because we had pandemic, I went back to Japan to see my family, and that was my smallest goal but biggest goal at the same time, because my parents can't give me any theater job. They are not related to theater. They don't sing, they don't dance, they don't even speak English. So they don't help me at all, but it helps me mentally go back to being neutral or like refreshed. So I was like, because I was in New York and like not the best place I lived, so I was like more down and like mentally downed. So I could recharge my energy because I see my family and how they support me and how they love me still, even I was away for like 7 or 8 years, they don't forget and they still love me. So that gives me like, okay, let's try something else. Let's do more to achieve my career goal. So I was ready mentally to take voice lessons. Beforehand, I was like, no, I don't want to take voice lessons because they probably gonna say, oh, you can't sing well. Oh, thank you. Oh, you are a dancer. You don't have to sing well. Thank you. So I was mentally ready to take voice lessons. And then I met like another great teacher. Like, this is like, yes, I want to improve my singing skills, but at the same time, they want to grow me up as an artist too. So like taking lessons give me more mentors or whoever like models. So that's great way to like, even though the small goals, it leads to the bigger goals.
Yeah, I like that. I really respect that you made a goal to sort of refill your cup. One of the things about the city is that you're pouring out all the time, and it's really hard. It's really draining. Like if you don't have a way to recharge your batteries, or you don't have a peaceful space where you can just sort of cocoon for a little bit, it's really difficult. So that's, yeah, like it's okay to like say, all right, that's it. I'm going to take this time off and go do that. That's a great goal. That's a great goal. And it doesn't seem like the goal that you should make. Like that's not what people are telling you to do. That's not in the trade magazines. Hey, take a week off and go home. The new strategy for learning your triple time step. It's like it's not there, but it should be, right?
Yes.
Those things that are actually really, really important.
If I can briefly, I love the fact that the people who believe in you kind of help you remember like why you do it. It made me think of the Larry Grossman song, Just One Person. Look it up. The Muppets do a fantastic rendition.
If just one person believes in you, deep enough and strong enough believes. It's so good.
Great song.
I'm not tearing up at all.
It will bring me back from the brink anytime. It's a great lift yourself up number.
Yeah. Randa, small goals.
Well, I think I kind of talked about it a little bit with like my cleaning out my wardrobe. I don't know, just like things to be closer to my goal. I guess like also I'm going to tell a small anecdote. So when I graduated college, my senior year, I broke my ankle. I went to all these unifieds. I got a bunch of callbacks, no jobs because they couldn't see me dance. And so they didn't know if I could move or if I was just like faking the broken leg so that I didn't have to dance. I don't know. It doesn't matter. Anyway, so I went home to live with my parents, and my goal was to save up X amount of money so that I could then move to New York. That was like my plan. Those were my goals. And so like, as I was working this restaurant job, they were like, why aren't you doing community theater? And why aren't you like doing things here? And I said, well, my evenings would be taken up, which means my best shifts, I would not be able to work and I would not be able to move towards my goal. At the end of my time, when I found like, okay, I've saved enough money, I'm going to go to New York. I got a job, not in New York. So like, things change, and you kind of just gotta roll with the punches. And while I was grateful to have saved that money, how funny is it that that goal, I didn't move to New York until I think 3 years later, 3 years later. So things change. You just kind of gotta roll with the punches. And I think that that's the biggest thing to remember whenever you're setting any kind of goals.
Yeah. And also, if you think about like, getting a job isn't like a step away. It's kind of a step sideways, because if you're working in theater, you're going to meet people at that job that already live in New York. So the like key to success in any city is your circle. So you're increasing the size of your circle. So you've got the money now to go to New York, and now you're creating the infrastructure for your own success by taking a job. So it was just a sideways step. Plus, getting to work.
Yes. Of
Working
course.
is good. I think that's so great. Like, yeah, you make your small goals, and sometimes like you achieve them and it's not, relevant.
Yeah.
Yeah, and life has a different idea, but it's all right. Just keep your eyes on the prize. It's like that thing that Paul was saying earlier. Don't get stuck in the paradigm. As a casting director, so many actors would not take jobs for great contracts, would not take the jobs because they wanted to stay in the city, or they were waiting to hear back from so-and-so, and they didn't want to take the work because it would take them out of the culture. And that is relevant. If that is your goal, if you want to
100%.
absolutely stay in New York, do that. But it was always surprising to me. Like, this role is a great role for you. This would be a really good, no? Okay, well, see you around.
Yeah.
There's 15 more people on my list. So no skin off my nose. See you later. But yeah, that's the important thing about goal setting is, sometimes you get it and it's not what you expected. Tra-la. Paul, small goals.
Yeah.
Speechless.
Well, outside of the theater, especially, I find it kind of difficult because I really am sort of a workaholic, and I do kind of, my work seeps into every facet of my life. But I will say one of the goals that I didn't think I would get to experience during a pandemic, I came out to Colorado, right? And I've always loved traveling, and I thought that I would usually be doing it for work, for shows. And I have done that. I've done that a lot. But I got to see a part of the country that I had always wanted to see and never had a clear path toward before. So I was really able to spin the idea of, well, my career is on hold and I am leaving my hometown of New York City, into I'm again going towards the ultimate goal of people. I want to experience and meet people who are very different from me. That is a huge part of what I want to do. And I've gotten to do that here a lot. And on the way out here a lot. So yeah, that I think it's so interesting too, the more when we talk, the way we're talking about these small goals, and I think about something that I have to do when I make these adjustments, when I have to be flexible, is grieving your goals, which I'm not very good at. I get stuck in the bargaining phase a lot. Denial, anger, bargaining, acceptance, is that the order? Whatever it is, I'm stuck in bargaining.
Don't forget depression.
Sure, absolutely. How could I?
And acceptance.
But I spend a lot of time thinking like, oh, if I had done this one thing differently, think of how I could have had that goal. I could have had that thing. And so it's important to acknowledge, that it's okay. Acknowledge that like, yes, maybe I could have had it, but this is where we are. And holding on to it is not going to get you closer to the super objective, to the big goal. I've found this common theme of when you either get what you want and it's not what you want, or when you don't get what you want. Yeah. I'm gonna let that sentence trail off.
This might sound a little crazy, and this is a strategy that I have for dealing with that feeling, because I've gone through that stuff all the time. I used to be a lot more high strung than I am now. I know, I was unbearable, but I would have a lot of difficulty letting go of goals in particular that I thought defined who I was, that were like part of my self-identity. So what I would actually do, what I started doing to sort of cope with the loss of those goals, because there's all kinds of things, like not getting cast in a particular part. We talked about that a few weeks ago, or not getting a particular contract. I would try to be positive about those things all the time. Like, oh, you know what? If I did get this national tour, what do I actually need to be able to do in order to take that contract? I would have those thoughts, and then I would set it in motion, because you're never going to get something you're not ready for. So I would do that stuff, but that does take a lot of commitment, and sometimes that would take a toll. So what I would end up doing is writing a little piece about it, sometimes in one of my journals. And then if it was a really potent goal for me, or something that I really was sad about, I would take my thoughts and feelings about it. I would go out to the fire pit at Amish Acres or go out to one of the public parks with the grills in Chicago. And I would just sit there with it and like, let it go, like have a little, what I called a funeral. I would have a little funeral for that goal and be like, you know what, you were okay. Everything's fine. This didn't work out and that's fine. And I know that sounds so dramatic and kind of silly, but it super helped. It super helped me to be able to move forward from stuff, because not only was it me acknowledging that this is over, this didn't work the way I wanted it to, but then I also have a visual in my mind of the moment that I let it go. An artistic expression for me, a little movie in my mind of me letting that thing go away. And it really helped me. So I think, yeah, letting those goals go about their merry way and maybe visit someone else, that's absolutely fine. Like, and coping, no matter how silly the way that you cope is, as long as you're not hurting yourself or hurting other people, you cope the way that you need to cope, you know? So we're going to move on to final thoughts. I think for me, final thoughts today are goals always change. The more I live, the more I learn, the more I learn, the more I realize, the less I know. So it's okay for your goals to change. You don't have to set a goal when you're 7 and then do everything that you can to achieve that same goal. Because when you're 7, you don't know everything. And the closer you get to your goals, the more you're going to learn about those goals. And the more you learn, the more knowledge you have, the better you're going to be at setting a better goal. So don't be scared of the things that distract you. Like, oh, this thing is really appealing to me and I want to go toward that thing, but it's not in my goal. So I can't do this thing that would bring me joy. Do the thing that brings you joy. Don't worry about it. Like, goals are goals. They're always going to be there. It's going to be there in the morning. Don't worry about it. So don't be anxious, and just think about what's always going to be important. That is all. That's my stepping off the soapbox. And now, Miss Katie, final thoughts.
Don't kick yourself when you're down. And even a little bit better, or even a little step towards your goal is better. It is progress. So just keep moving forward as much as you can at the pace that you can.
That's exactly right. Other people's timelines don't matter. What other people tell you need to do doesn't matter. Just because you read Billy Crystal's autobiography and you want to be like Billy Crystal, and within 6 months of moving to New York, Billy Crystal was on some show, that doesn't mean that you have 6 months or you're never going to achieve the things that Billy Crystal achieved. I mean, you won't, because he's Billy Crystal and you're you, and you're going to achieve your goals. He is also terrible at achieving your goals, by the way. He's awful at it. Terrible. So don't worry about that. But yes, great wise words, Miss Katie. Akira, final thoughts?
Yeah, I think this is my advice to myself too. I just want to try anything I can do, because if it's in front of me, it's a given chance. And nothing is valueless. Like, it means something in your life, in my life. So I just want to take the chance I can. That's my final thoughts for today.
Yeah, it's okay if a path is unfolding in front of you to follow that path. You don't always have to take the hard, difficult path that's full of brambles and branches where you have to hack your way through, you know? If there's a path that's easier and it's opening up in front of you, don't be scared of it. That's beautiful. Yeah, Kara. Randa, final thoughts?
Just remember that there are a lot of things that are out of your control. And so I think you just got to remember that, like, if you weren't cast in this show, it's because there was somebody who fit that role better, or they saw a better part for you, or like whatever. Like, there's so many things outside of your control. So all you can really do is focus on you and what you can do to achieve your goals. So just focus on yourself, truly.
Yeah, like Julie Andrews didn't get cast in Oklahoma because she went to the audition for Oklahoma and they said, we have some friends who are working on a different project that you should do. And she ended up becoming Julie Andrews because she didn't get cast in Oklahoma. Yeah, missed opportunities are blessings. And Paul, final thoughts.
Yeah, talk about comparing yourself to others. Stephen Sondheim had his first musical on Broadway when he was 27, and it was the greatest musical ever written, West Side Story. And that thought tormented me until my 28th birthday. And then suddenly nothing mattered. I wasn't late. I knew that it was never going to happen. Don't do that. Dream big, dare to fail gloriously, and remember that dreams without plans will remain dreams, but plans without dreams are pointless.
Oh,
that's my final thought.
Bumper sticker final thought. That was good. Well, thank you guys. Thank you guys so much for being here today. I feel fired up based on that episode, so we hope that you feel fired up too. If you have questions about setting goals or questions about our goals and where we are and how things have changed for us, just pop that down in the comments here on YouTube. Don't forget to like and subscribe while you're down there. Also, like us on Facebook, and if you want to send us a message about anything specific, don't hesitate to do that over on Facebook. I think any episode of Table Talk where I get to talk about Julie Andrews and Carol Burnett in one episode, mwah, that's right, it's another chef's kiss. I want to thank our panel for being here today. There's still time to register for Goshen Theater Drama Club for the summer season this year. That registration doesn't close till the 21st of June, and there is still financial assistance available, so go do that. Thank you to Goshen Noon Kiwanis. Thank you to the United Way, and thank you to the Community Foundation of Elkhart County. None of this would be possible without you. Thank you, panelists, and we will see you all next week. Bye-bye.